welcome everyone. And this is our final installment of BBB's Junior Board Masterclass. And if this is your first time joining us tonight, my name is Pamela Anson, and I am the Director of Brand Outreach at Better Business Bureau, serving Greater Cleveland. And earlier this year, we formed our Junior Board of Directors to really bring budding entrepreneurs and business leaders together. And our goal for this group was really to find new ways to connect, give back, and kind of expand BBB's brand awareness. We hope that this webinar series has really provided you with maybe a new perspective, some common challenges businesses have faced, and we hope that we can answer some of your questions. So we appreciate everyone taking the time this evening to attend our final Junior Board Masterclass. And before introducing our speaker today, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. But this session is formatted a little differently than the other ones we've done, and it's really a true Q&A learning opportunity. So we really encourage you to ask questions throughout this experience, but when asking questions, please include your name, maybe type of business, or a little bit about your company so that we can get to know you a little better. This presentation is being recorded, and we will be sharing this video afterwards if you want to rewatch it, and it will be up on BBB's Cleveland YouTube page. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Batula Zidi. Batula is a software PhD scientist trained at the Cleveland Clinic and MIT. She is CEO of Science First Partnership in Cleveland, Ohio. And I actually met Batula, I think about 4 years ago, when she applied for our BBB Spark Award. And for those that aren't familiar with this award, it's really geared towards young business owners, 35 and younger, who've been in business for less than 3 years. And it really targets business owners who embody character, culture, and community within their business. So I've known Batula for a long time, and she is currently a BBB accredited business. She is a member of BBB's board of directors, and she is also on the BBB Junior Board. So needless to say, I've spent a lot of time with her, getting to know her, and I'm really looking forward to our chat tonight. So thank you so much, Batula, for joining us for this final class.
Oh, absolutely, Pam. Thank you so much for that introduction. And yeah, it's really kind of heartwarming to hear you trace back, you know, how we met and everything that we've been able to achieve together since then. So thank you for that intro.
Oh, absolutely. And I've always been, you know, really excited to read and learn about your company. And getting ready for today, I was actually reading an article through Education in Action, and it really talked about how you got started and how you used those experiences at MIT and working at a tech company in Chicago. So I was really hoping that you could kind of give us a short overview of your company. And, you know, in this article, you talked about open innovation. So kind of how you talk a little bit about your business and how you incorporate that open innovation mission within your business today.
Sure, great. So open innovation is the concept that when, you know, big organizations are up against like a major challenge, and in our case, we're interested in science and medicine, so pharma companies, universities, but big organizations are up against challenges, and they want access to untapped sources of innovation. They want to integrate what they have internally with external innovation. So a great example of that is Pfizer working with BioNTech. So they had certain capabilities, BioNTech had certain capabilities, and it was the marriage of the two that helped fast track, you know, a life-saving vaccine. So Science First Partnerships is a 3-year-old software company in Cleveland that custom matches researchers to funding sources. And so what we're doing is we're selling a pool of about 2 million researchers who, you know, typically working at universities. And we're selling them lists that are custom matched that deliver exactly the type of private funding sources that are a great fit for them. And there's about you know, about $86 billion available in private funding sources for for these researchers doing biomedical research. The problem is that it's scattered. It's tough to find. It's all over different places in the internet. There's no standard format in which they're advertised to researchers. So we pulled all that together into a database. So we got the full list of all the funders, and the scientists come to us and say, hey, we need help getting funding. Here's some information about my research. Then we custom match them to funders based on a shared scientific objective. And we've got a patent pending that's on track to convert into an official patent, like an enforceable patent on the database, the code that actually does the matching, and the business model. So our major contracts right now are with universities. They're enterprise deals with universities that have on average about 2,000 researchers. So 2,000 people who potentially could benefit from using our service. Yeah.
I love that. I really do. And, you really set out to solve a problem. And so you really came up with this idea. And you talked a little bit about that you're going for a patent. So how would someone, protect this idea? So you came up with this idea. How would you protect it when you're ready to monetize it?
That's a great question. So my training as a scientist, I was always working in a lab where we were very aware that what we were inventing could become worth billions of dollars. And so we looked at all of our work as being very valuable, and there's a lot of thinking around like intellectual property there. So outside of academia, though, for those of you guys listening in who are in other industries, even outside of software, it's definitely essential to understand what intellectual property landscape you're walking into, because people get in trouble when they create something. They have no idea that they were stepping on some other company's toes. They were infringing on a patent. And besides that, it's just an important part of mapping out your competitive landscape, who you're up against, what types of kind of boundaries should you build around how you think about designing your product. So I would strongly encourage people to minimally do a patent search. Do a patent search, understand, is there a patent out there right now that a different company has, on what we've already built and hopefully didn't start selling yet. But do a patent search. For us, software is a very competitive field. So we invested in a legal team as soon as we could. And it's 4 people, and all they do is work on our patent. They work on copywriting our code and on trademarks. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Oh, that's a great point. And, not to throw in our little bit, but, finding a trusted, a team that you can work with is so important. So that's great that you found a trusted team. So we talked a little bit about your company. You're a new company. You opened just 3 years ago. So how did you know when you were really ready to open or to really start your business?
It's a great question, Pam, and I'm sure a lot of people out there, you have great ideas and you want to know when should you pull the trigger. For me, like I'm big on planning. So this, we've been open for 3 years, but I've been doing all kinds of research on developing our business model and thinking about how we're going to make this software for maybe 10 years. And then for me personally, what I wanted to do was make sure that we had secured, all the way up to interest from a buyer. So it's a reputable buyer, someone who would be a really good collaborator to help us get our product off the ground. And once we had everything in place, then we started the business, got the LLC, launched the website, and it didn't take long from that starting point for us to start closing big deals. But that's really because of all of the planning that went into it ahead of time, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. So what do you think a business would do that's maybe not like a tech company or a software company? What could someone that's already open do that if they have an idea in their business and want to take that next step?
So like operational business that has like an idea about a new
Yeah.
product they want to launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a good general answer, again, like I believe in planning. So as much ahead of time, I mean, by planning, I mean you need to know exactly what goals you have, like in a tech company, what the valuation of the company should be. What would you like your IPO to be at? What would you like to be acquired at? You want to think really hard about really concrete end goals or how you're going to measure making an impact in the world. And then just reverse engineer and think about everything and the timelines on which you want that to proceed. You can't control everything. We know that. You can't have a plan executed flawlessly, but I would strongly recommend just planning everything from the get-go. I'm not a big fan of this concept that's popular in software and tech of build it on the way down. So they say, let's jump out of a plane and we're gonna make the parachute on the way down. I think that it's good to be a more responsible steward of the time and the resources that your people and your investors and your clients have put, into your company. And you want to respect all of that by making sure that you're planning everything as down to the detail far ahead of time. It's a general answer, but hopefully that kind of applies to across industries.
Oh no, and I think so. And we've talked throughout the other master classes about how important having a plan is. And so whether it's diversification or working with a team, or like we talked last week with marketing, having that plan ahead is really going to set you up for success. So I think that's a great answer. Now we know that you're a scientist by training, which you might not traditionally think is someone who makes a sale. So what do you think influences your sales and marketing methods?
Yeah, so I do have a doctorate in software, but before that, also I've always had a strong interest in business, and even through my scientific career, most of what people would call on me to do is raise funding from private sources, from the government. So it's something I've always had a knack for, and I think of myself primarily as an entrepreneur. And I kind of picked up the PhD in software, like on my way to trying to make a bigger impact in medicine. But scientific training is tremendously valuable when it comes to thinking like things like specific marketing and sales strategy. We're just super data driven, just taking the amount of detail that we know about our prospects, where exactly they get their information from, putting a ton of data around when we make a pitch to them. And that's something you could if you want to look at that pitch deck, we could kind of break that down.
Yeah, I'd be happy to pull up that pitch deck. All right.
Okay, great. So that's first. Yeah, this is from back when we were called Firefly. That was the first name for the company. And now we are Science First Partnerships. So we get right into the problem with data. And we show everyone in who we are selling to has seen this graph, and we want to really emphasize it and also make it clear that we understand their pain. And what you're looking at is an increase in funding that then transitions into an abrupt decline. That's the equivalent of like a Great Depression in research funding. So people start losing jobs, labs start getting shut down, research programs, life-saving research programs are shut down. And so we start with that, and then the next slide, we map out like how that is impacting how faculty are using their time. And then the next slide. So we also break down, with numbers, how academia needs to partner up through these open innovation initiatives with the private sector more, so that they have sustainable long-term growth. And we, in this particular example, we dug really deep into like National Science Foundation issues surveys that they basically gather information from universities about really detailed information about where they get their money from, how much of that's from the private sector, how much of that is through open innovation initiatives. So kind of a readout of like how well they're doing in terms of tapping into that pool of funding. And in this particular case, we were showing that with the blue bar that our prospect had some room to improve relative to their competitors. So that goes into the next slide. Yeah, so a lot of this, we can keep going through this if you don't mind, Pam.
No, absolutely.
We want to break down for them with a nice graphic that we envision this to be a collaboration with these specific steps, and ultimately produce something that like neither one of us could have alone, and that we're committed to continually improving. Then we show the product at the next slide. And at the very end, there's just a little bit of, at the very end,
There we go.
yeah, so here we give them some specifics, and we, how exactly this is graphed. I'm honestly not a fan of this. This is old though. We've gotten much better at it. The exact format could be improved, but the point is give them some financial forecasting, some different scenarios about how, if this works out, what people stand to gain, and what the, what the risk is associated with like not moving forward on this type of a project. So that's that. Lots of data, really targeted, lots of data, tons of research, and people know that you care about them then. They know that you understand what their problems are.
Well, thank you for showing the real life example. I think that's so helpful to a business to see like what kind of work you do. And data is so underrated. Honestly, it's so important for marketing. Marketing isn't just all, let's make something cool on social media. It's about getting your message out there. So I think you don't realize how important that the numbers are, and setting those goals so that you can try to reach and improve every year. I think that's awesome. So since you have an untraditional sales method, maybe have you kind of learned that secret sauce to it for sales?
Oh, for sales, it would be presumptuous for me to say that I know the secret sauce, but I can tell you just what I have learned over the years, and just people make great products that help people, sell things that you believe in, and that may sound warm and fuzzy, but really when we're talking about what feels like a right deal, what feels like the right thing to do, what is the right thing to do, that tends to line up really well with how things will be successful in the marketplace. You want there to be a really good alignment between you, and you need to fully understand, what problem that you're solving for your prospects is. So, yeah, so I think that's key, Pam. There's going to be a lot of things people read about methods that might focus on, just applying psychological pressure to people, applying just different ways to, and it kind of tends to create in a lot of this conventional sales training sometimes, like if you kind of forget the greater purpose of things, it can create an adversarial relationship with your customers. And you don't want to do that. You don't want your salespeople representing your company to think about the company that way. You don't want them to go into meetings with this view of like, this is a target, I want to pressure them to get this deal right now. It's very expensive to be pushing bad products out onto markets. It's very, very expensive. So yeah, instead of focusing on those things, I think you set your compass point. For us, that is ultimately patients benefiting, and more directly through scientists getting funding for life-saving research. So once we've set that compass point, everything else tends to fall into place, if that makes sense.
No, that does. I like, how you say you're purpose driven too. which is one reason you applied for the Spark Award in the first place, because you believe that your company really does value that character, culture, and community, and that drives your sales. I think that's a great way to look at it. Well, one thing that I've always, kind of wondered about tech is that in tech, stock prices sometimes can go up even if sales go down. So can you just talk to me a little bit about how that might work?
Oh yeah, it's crazy, right? Like the people are losing millions of dollars and the company's like worth more and more every day, but
Yeah.
it's not totally contrived, right? There's a reason why the sales numbers and stock prices or valuations are not always tied together. And really that's so when investors, people are buying stock or they want a percent ownership in a company, they're not thinking about right now what's this company making. That's important, but what they're thinking about is this company going to make a lot more money in a year? What's the growth going to look like in 5 years, in 7 years, in 10 years? They're thinking long term, and the sales numbers, the immediate sales numbers, are just one data point on that trajectory. So not to discount the importance of just sort of hard metrics on how people are actually doing, competing in the marketplace, but the valuations of stock prices are also very important, and not always and there's not always a one-to-one correspondence with what's going on with those two. So for example, we have a patent pending, right? And when that converts into a patent, that's going to dramatically, it's going to increase the value of our company independently of our sales numbers, whether they're doing great or they're not doing great, or whatever it is. So acquiring some other competitive advantage in those terms is going to influence the stock prices independently of sales numbers. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense.
We got demystified a little bit.
No, so and I've been hearing so much about the stock market lately, so thank you for clarifying. So I kind of want to jump back to, we were talking about sales and marketing, but what does marketing actually look like for a software company?
Marketing for a software company, for our company, I believe that we do well because we find out exactly where our prospects are getting their information from that is outside of the traditional avenues. So email is great, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, that whole package, right, of the usual routes. There's that's important, but you also want to figure out where are they getting their information, where there's less competition for their attention. And in our case, the best places to reach our people, departmental bulletins, institution-wide bulletins. We have had our product advertised internally at universities. There's not much, competing noise there to kind of drown out that message. Trade publications, conferences. So it is well worth anybody's time to think about where exactly the people that you want to work with, where exactly they're getting their information from, and what you can do to get in there. It's a little more work, right? But that's a good bar to have, that you have the type of credibility and a proven product that warrants or it justifies being showcased in sort of their more internal world.
No, I like that because, not every business is maybe the traditional business. So for a marketing standpoint, you have to look outside the box and know who to connect with or who to network with. And marketing can look like so many things besides the traditional route. So I think that's a great point. So I'm guessing as a CEO, you wear many hats in your business. Well, how do you prioritize all those hats? So whether it's demands on your team, I know you said you have investors, potential clients, all while trying to make a sale.
It's a great question. It can be easy to spread yourself thin. Just want to just think efficiency. How do I make this efficient? And you just need to have a clear understanding before you go in and talk, before you have meetings. You just need a very clear understanding of exactly what information you need from specific groups of people. So you don't need a lot of information from investors, and that may or may not overlap with some stuff you need from your clients, may or may not overlap what you need from your company, but you should know it. Meetings should just be very, very organized. And that's, now that we are all a little bit more virtual, we can take advantage of the fact that these virtual meetings, they create a certain structure where there's not as much water cooler, gossip and just all kinds of uncontrolled interactions, people talking about things that are on an agenda. But we have a lot of structure to meetings. We have a purpose for each meeting. The leader knows exactly what information they need from people. Just controlling the conversations. I think that's probably the most important thing. With that, there's not really much stress in it, really, once you have that in place.
It's always interesting to learn how different leaders take control. So I always love to learn what methods each leader does, because it varies so much from business to business and person to person. So speaking of our teams, I've been talking a lot about how to motivate and show appreciation in your team. I know we had a masterclass on that a few weeks ago. So I am just curious, how do you motivate and show appreciation to your team?
Good question. Good question. I believe in tangible ways. So yes, we can do surveys and all those things are great, sort of what the usual, but what they really need to be motivated is some tangible things. Competitive compensation. They need reach assignments that are going to help them get an edge when they leave, so that they can really pursue their big professional and financial and other goals that they have. It's a real edge. And then those are the most important thing. The company swag is important. I think it feels good. It feels good to have it. It's something you can hold these days when it's very virtual. If you can hold like a vest, that's the science first vest. You can wear something that it's kind of like a uniform, we like to have nice swag, and I think that's a worthwhile investment. So those three things. So competitive compensation, you can be creative about that. You don't, not all people are primarily motivated by one particular thing in a complete package of competitive compensation. Reach assignments, really, really important. Going in, I want to know while we're interviewing, what are your professional goals? What are your educational goals? How do you see us being a part of your own upward trajectory? What do you see us, what do you see this job as being able to do that's going to help you get there? And then we work to make that, possible. We want that alignment of the purpose of the individual with the company.
That's so interesting. So you're not afraid of people leaving your company?
The types of people we want working for us, we couldn't hope to hang on to those kinds of people. These are like ambitious people that want to change the world. We're fortunate to just, take some of their precious years, typically in their 20s and 30s, they're giving us this time and they're never going to get that time back. And if you have really big, goals, if you really want to make a big impact, big professional educational goals, then taking on assignments or jobs or working in companies where you're going to make incremental advances, you're just going to become job title 1 and then job title 1.5. In 5 years, it's just these little steps. Like, it might not be the right thing, just for those types of people who are a good fit for the startup environment. So I have no illusions about that. We couldn't hang on to those people. We don't want to make that a goal, but we definitely want to have a reputation for sending them out into the world, for giving them an edge, so that as they pursue their big dreams, they've got something from us that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
That's such an interesting perspective. And you don't hear that, especially, there's people are trying to hire people. So it's such an interesting thing, that you phrase it like that. I love that. It's just a very different way. Um, so we've talked about how you've been a company that's into, for these spark, these character, culture, and community. So I know we were just talking about, some community outreach and charitable causes that you're working for. I know you have done some work with Hathaway Brown Business School for high school girls. So how do you, or why do you prioritize that against maybe your limited time and resources you have as a young business or a new business?
Well, I mean, it really just is the right thing to do. It's a simple answer. It also tends to attract the types of people we want working for us and with us, um, for us to, be involved in these initiatives. And we're so grateful for the groups that they open up and they trust us, especially with their children. And they trust us to, take care of them and help educate them. For example, Hathaway Brown School for girls, all girls school. We work with them to teach high school girls how to, sharpen up their business skills in a real world setting. And that's a very rewarding one. I like that one. But yeah, it's the right thing to do, and we're all part of a fabric, of society. Like, we want to strengthen the greater fabric. We don't want to just be the type of company or have like a mindset where we're just thinking about, I want to grab this bit for myself. Here's an opportunity. I'm going to take something for me at the expense of other people. It is very good for business to kind of have a more forward-thinking mindset than that. So that working, to the extent that we have these partnerships, and we want to keep growing that. We're very fortunate that they help us. They help us stay true to our core values.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I know you said it's good for business, and more, if we're looking at younger consumers, they want that in a business. They want to work with business owners who are doing good and giving back. They really want that profit and, purpose kind of attitude. I think it makes you feel good. It makes other people feel good. It's just an overall good thing.
Are we referring to like the Gen Z or Gen?
Yeah, and millennials, even millennials, are looking for that kind of purpose and profit kind of business. They'd rather
Yes.
do business.
I just wanted to get the nomenclature right. So I am a millennial, and I know what you're talking about. I think the people of the sort of younger generations, I love that view that they share with us, which is that in our view, a business is supposed to make the world a better place. It's not just supposed to make bigger and bigger piles of money for the business. Like, we want to have a very powerful economic model in place that can sustain growth. It can really power a lot of growth. It can power sort of our journey to help as many of these scientists as we can. But that's not the primary purpose. Is not just to make a lot of money.
Oh yeah, and that's something that, when we talk about motivating, some staff find that, if to be connected with the community, motivating to be on a team. So it's a good way to help motivate your team as well, I think, from what we were talking about before. Oh, I like that. Now, just a reminder, as if you have any questions, please feel free to type those in the chat. Um, we're happy to answer those. But we are wrapping up. And as we start to wrap up, Batula, do you have any resources or recommendations that might help business owners or leaders like yourself?
Yes, I think definitely please take advantage of Better Business Bureau resources. We have just the best people putting together the most useful information to help you grow your business. And there's a lot, I've spent a lot of time kind of working with them. We've benefited tremendously through our, partnership with the Better Business Bureau, networking opportunities as well. So yeah, I don't know if you have like details, Pam, specifically about where to direct people outside of just the website is good.
Yes, we have lots of resources on our website, and I'm always happy to talk to people in the business community. And I know I've introduced you to people too that I've met throughout the way, Batula. But we have a lot of advantages of accreditation, and really just ways to help kind of build trust in the community. So whether that's through education, networking, exclusive benefits, discounts, or even business tips that are on the website to really help your business. So is there any, it looks like we just have a message that says, I really like your perspective. I think this is when we were talking about letting people grow and lead the team. So I really like that perspective. It's a realistic way to view your team. So is there do you have any other advice or points that you would like to kind of wrap up today with?
No, that's really it. I appreciate all this time, Pam, that you've spent putting this webinar series together. And I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that you've given, Science First to grow and work with you guys. Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. So if you have any questions or would like to reach out to Batula and follow up, you can reach out to me. My email is pam, @cleveland.bbb.org, and I will be happy to connect you with Batula or find ways that we can work together with the junior board. And besides that, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, especially for our last session of our junior board master classes. We hope to continue this programming in the future. And if you have any ideas about programming, please feel free to reach out to me. And again, any questions, my email is pam, @cleveland.bbb.org. And this webinar is recorded. And if you would like to view it again, it will be up on our YouTube page. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I hope you have a great evening.